Well, good evening, listeners. Thank you so much for listening to Lament of Hope podcast. Always a gift. I'm starting to record. This is my first interview for December, and it's really cool how the Lord has lined up all these different interviews, but so interesting that come this Christmas season, as we're starting to think about it, I found Grace Humphries, who you see here on the screen or who you'll listen to in a moment, and she is a rising singer. She has a very beautiful voice, very youthful. I would say there's a very special ring to her voice, but she's an up-and-coming singer, and she graduated from high school, and she just released a single called For Years, and it talks about, the theme of it is kind of what lots of us go through for Christmas when things are kind of mixed emotions, sad and happy. But also just feeling this, missing someone, whether they've passed away or you've lost a person. Or maybe, for me, I resonated with it a lot because, the family that I had growing up for Christmas looks different now than I do when I'm older. And so it's just a lot of, there's mixed emotions for the seasons. And I was really blessed to come across her song. And she just released it last week as the time of this recording. And so I'm really excited to talk with her about the song and just her life journey. So Grace, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I know it's not your regular Christmas song. It's, when you think of Christmas songs, you think of, cheery and bells but I really wanted to reflect on the Christmases I've had and how that's evolved over the years.
I wanted to ask you before we started, because it was something, I've wanted to ask a lot of singers, and it's just escaped my mind in the moment, but now it's here, so I'm going to ask. When I was reading about your bio and who you are, it was saying you're mostly self-taught, which is really neat. But I wanted to ask you, is it hard as a singer to compare to people who are not self-taught? So as you're trying to rise and get your talent out there, let people see this is, something I have a gift for, I'm capable of doing this. And then you have all these other artists that are coming in or rising up or have been around who have a lot more training or a lot more in their resume. And I wanted to ask you, how do you navigate that, still persevering with no, I have a purpose to do this and this is important to me, and I'm not going to be discouraged by this or let this kind of define where I'm going.
Yeah, definitely. I've compared myself to other artists, even if they, were also self-taught.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely find myself like, oh, they had these lessons, like these fancy lessons for years. And I have had formal lessons with guitar and piano. I didn't do it as long as them. But yeah, I definitely have compared myself to all types of musicians. I mean, I think everyone is guilty, in whatever vocation they do. They're guilty of comparing themselves to people who may have had more opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wondered because it's I feel it in the podcasting world too. It's and it's just, you work very hard, you put out content that people would be encouraged by, or just something that you love to do. And it's hard when I do get the envy bug. I'm like, oh dear,
Yeah.
should I change this? Should I be more this? But it doesn't, it's you have to be your niche, and it just doesn't work to,
Yeah.
flip flop. But I've always
Well,
wondered, must be
yeah,
hard.
definitely. I think that when I get the envy bug, and I'm sure you can relate to this, the thing that grounds me is, my faith in God and
Yeah.
just, knowing that He has me exactly where He wants me to be. And, He gave me this gift for a reason, for whatever reason, and His plans, we may have an idea of how our life is going to work out, but ultimately He has the final say.
Well, I mean, you know that very well with what happened to your little brother, which has impacted so much of your music. So for people listening who don't know your story, can you share about your brother Liam and just how that has changed what you thought your life was going to look like? Because you've experienced pain pretty early in life.
Yeah, so my older brother Liam, yeah, he um when I was 8, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He was 10, so I mean he was pretty young too. Um but yeah, we were very close, and at the time I really didn't understand it all. I mean, 8-year olds kind of have like an idea of death or a concept of death, but not quite like, you know, really. And yeah, I basically watched someone. I watched death. I watched him suffer. I watched him go through radiation, and you know, it. I guess, and he believed in God, so he believed in Jesus, and that's as a 10-year-old, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess always like who's Jesus, and because we grew up in a Christian home, but I guess as an 8-year-old you don't really grasp the concept of God, and but he was always like he knew where he was going at the end, and yeah, I don't know, yeah, it's those images sometimes pop up randomly, and even though it's been 10 years, you still think about it. You still have so many memories. Um, but yeah.
When did you, because you said he was 10, how did you guys find out he had brain cancer? Was it something sudden? Did it come on gradually or?
Well, we don't really know. I mean, he was throwing up, had these nasty headaches for a year, so I'm not like, but I mean, it was gradual. So he started throwing up more towards the end. But yeah, something was wrong for about a year, and all the doctors like, well, nothing's wrong with him, and blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere, but it was there were signs. Yeah.
And do you remember when they told, when were you able to understand when they said that he had cancer, however your parents shared that with you, or however that kind of went down? Do you remember your first reaction to that? Like, did you understand what that meant, or did it just sound like something that you could get better, or how did you feel when you heard that for the first time about him?
Well, as far as I can remember, that was my first introduction to cancer, and I didn't. I mean, no 8-year-old is thinking about cancer. Most 8-year-olds, not
Yeah,
all, but
that's true.
most 8-year olds aren't thinking about cancer, and that was my first introduction to cancer. And um, ironically, my grandmother, she's actually still here with us. She had lung cancer, and she survived that, but she was in the hospital around the same time my brother was. Oh, as he was going through chemotherapy, and we would see her, and so I guess like it kind of all like, yeah, I so
Was it hard for you, like, because I can imagine when you started seeing the effects of the radiation, was that scary for you as a kid? Like, or did your parents prepare you that, he might look different over time, or?
not really. I think that we all thought that there's no way Liam's gonna die. He's ours. He's my best friend. My mother, my dad, and like he can't die. And so I think so many people can relate to that when they're going through something like this. You don't think it's gonna happen to you. You don't think you're actually gonna lose someone, and
Yeah.
we didn't think he was. I mean, even though all the signs pointed to it. I mean, the survival rate for glioblastoma brain cancer is like 5%, right?
Yeah.
It's no one survives this type of cancer. And even though we knew that, like, we were still like, it's not going to happen to him. And, he's doing so good in radiation. And, we would hold on to these little glimmers of hope. And But man, he was so strong. But yeah, I remember him going through radiation. I would go with him a lot, me and my mom, and I would see the whole thing. And yeah.
Did you guys ever, um, like, do you have a moment with your brother during that treatment that you remember, or just something that maybe reminded you of the old him while he was going through all of that hardship? Something you got to share together that you remember?
Well, I don't think he ever. It was only toward the end, like that. I think he wasn't really himself. But even through treatment, he stayed for the most part his personality and his just joyful personality. It stayed the same, and um, because at the end, I mean, he lost his eyesight. I mean, he was completely different. So, but before that, he was so joyful, and he never lost hope, and um, I don't know. It seemed like I think he knew that he was going to pass, but he didn't want me to know. He didn't want me to know that he knew that.
Yeah. Well, because I think too, like, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like, your older brother, you're always looking out for your sister, or you're hopefully doing that. Wanting,
Yeah.
um, to be brave and to hope, even if you don't feel it. I don't know if there's that. I think it's maybe in Lord of the Rings when Aragorn. I always remember what he said, something about, he brings hope to people even if he doesn't have any hope himself, that kind of thing. Um, do you know, you said he lost his sight at the end. Did you get to, like, say goodbye to him before he died, or was it more of, because unfortunately, like, my grandmother did have cancer, but I wasn't with her when she passed away. And so when I saw her before she ended up passing away, I think it was a few months later, she was still very cognizant, could talk with me. And so that was kind of how I said goodbye to her in that way. I wasn't there when she, like, didn't speak anymore. That was something my mom kind of stepped in and was more, with her mom during that time. But for me, I didn't get that experience, so I don't know, when cancer is kind of reaching its peak, when it's over, it's going to end. Did you get to have that moment to say goodbye to him, or was it something where he slipped away and kind of was gone, if that makes sense?
I don't think there was really a final goodbye. I did. I was. He did hospice at the end in an apartment that we were in at that time, and I was still in California because I'm from. I grew up born in California, San Diego. Moved to Texas after he passed, but he was doing treatment at MD Anderson here in Texas, and that's where he was in that apartment. But I was still in California, and then at the end, the last month he died, um, we went we went to the apartment because my parents didn't want me to see that stuff, and but when I got to the hospice, he was a completely different person. Like he was like a vegetable.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't talk. He didn't see. He was just basically on life support, and um, but I do remember the night he died. My parents took him or my parents called a Jeannie who is one of my mom's best friend, and Jeannie took me to Costco to get a toy, and that's when he died. My parents didn't because they knew that he was gonna pass that night, and they didn't want me to see. So I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye, but I remember there was this. We sent maybe a month before he died, or maybe a couple months when they went to Texas. Um, he just said I love you and I miss you, and yeah, it's pretty I don't know, pretty sad. So,
No, yeah, it's really sad. Was it now that you're older, is it how does that how does that feel? Like do you ever experience any sort of guilt or regret that you didn't get to say anything the last minute, or do you see it as almost like a blessing in a way that you didn't have to see, like you remember him more of before it was like the end, as opposed to your last memory being of him dying?
well, I don't think so, cuz I the last time he was himself, which I mean really wasn't, you know, even with the cancer he was never himself, but the last time he had a little bit of himself, we ended it. We never fought. We weren't. I don't think we were, your average civil sister brother relationship. We were very close, and so we never fought. And um, he was very selfless, I would say too. But
Yeah.
I remember before he went to hospice, there was this moment. This is when he started, losing his like ability to speak and his sight. And just, he didn't really do anything. He would just lay in the hospital bed, or I remember laying next to him in the hospital bed before hospice, and just he didn't say anything. I mean, he was just lying there. And yeah.
It's I think it's pretty amazing that an 8-year-old would still have the compassion and the empathy to that's it's something that still surprises me now. I work in I work with kids in Sunday school on Sundays, and that's my interaction when I usually get the most little kids around me at one time, and my kids in my class are the oldest are 8 years old, and I'm always so blessed and surprised by how like intuitive kids are to like emotions, and if you're sad or if you're happy, like they really do see that, and I think that's just such a gift that you being 8 like could comfort him in that way, like be present, like you knew that was important.
Yeah, I remember feeling like, where's Liam? Like, he's not his. I feel like at that point, I think some of his soul had already passed on to be with the Lord, you know? Um, yeah.
Yeah. So when we're going to fast forward a bit here, you've written, that also was a huge impetus for you to really dive into music and like the vulnerability of music. Um, and now you've come out with this single for years. And what because people would ask, I've had people tell me this before, and I at the time didn't know how to respond because I was embarrassed and angry. Um, but I had individuals who would say like, "Why are you grieving so long? Like, why aren't you done grieving? Like, it's been a while. Like what, like this is God's will. Like this was, um, you know, if you look down the road, like this will make sense eventually. Like it's just important to accept that like this is what God has allowed, and like why are you still grieving? Like there's a time clock here, and you shouldn't be taught. The tears should be done now." And I remember hearing that for the first time when I was in college, and I was just so angry and confused. I was like, "Am I like should I be fixed? Like why is this still a problem?" And to this day, I still over things that have happened a long time ago. Like there's still grief, and it doesn't, like holidays especially, it'll come up again. It's not as poignant as when it first happened, but it comes back. It doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, like, for years, it seems like, you have the picture of you and your brother in the background, and you're talking about like the sadness that comes and how your brother's not there to experience Christmas with you. Um, but some people would say, like, this is like 10 plus years later, they're like, why are you still, wouldn't you be in a more cheery place? Um, and I wanted to ask you, like, what is the significance to you, and why do you think that, a decade some later, this is still very real for you and important, and it's not something that just is gone?
Well, I would say maybe it would have been different if I had another sibling, that it wasn't just me and Liam.
Yeah,
Maybe the Christmases after wouldn't have been felt so lonely because I would have had that other sibling. Though I don't know how. I'm just guessing, but I don't know how it is for those Christmases, if a sister's lost a brother but she had another sibling. You know, I don't know what that's like. If the Christmases are, I don't think you can put a definitive you know timeline for when you stop grieving or grief itself. I don't know. I'm not so sure grief is there's an end date for it. I think it just evolves over time.
yeah,
And I think mostly, especially as a young child when I experienced that, like those are some heavy images to see someone you like your best friend, like your like best friend ever that you crack jokes with all the time. He's the best brother ever. He's so protective of you. To see someone like that go through radiation and chemo and wearing all these devices and suffering and seeing him in the hospital all the time, seeing him go through brain surgery. Like, even though that was 10 years ago, as a kid, your brain's still developing, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And maybe it would have been different if I lost a brother. I don't know. But that's the thing, you don't know. Like, it's it's definitely a weird thing. I I don't know. I don't know.
Well, no, that's the thing is I don't think it's weird. I know that there are several, especially Christians, who have a timeline for grief. And I think at least in my experience, when I've seen other believers go through grief, like really, something that sticks with them, they change their perspective because it's very, they experience it. And when you experience something, it's so much easier to be empathetic and understanding than it is when you just don't know what the person's going through. So like there's grace for that as well. But um, I still have Christmases where I'm like, I should feel this way. I don't know if you have that, but like they're like even you know, I'll get a panic attack will come on, or I'll start feeling low in the middle of the day on a holiday, and I'm like, why do I feel this way? I should feel happy. Um and over time I've learned that like it's not that I should feel anything. It's like okay to just be like, okay, I don't feel the way. Like there isn't a way I should feel, but I can choose to be present for people and for myself while recognizing the fact that I'm sad. And so I wonder for you for holidays, how do you kind of work with that? Do you find yourself digging into the grief a lot, or is it more of you recognize that emotion and you let it be there, but you find yourself trying to be present in the moment with the people around you? Because that is such a hard balance. And there are some holidays where I feel like I did that okay. And then there are other holidays where I didn't. And I was just immersed in the sad. And I have to not beat myself up, but it's really hard because I know people around me, are saddened or discouraged when they see that. But it's just like this journey, you go up and down, and then sometimes you go up for a pretty long time and then you go down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the holidays definitely I shouldn't be feeling this way, but I feel like so many people feel sad or blue during the holidays. Whether that's because they've lost someone and they're thinking about all the Christmases they've had with them, or just Christmas itself, like not having someone to hold, you know companionship.
Yeah,
Or
that's true.
it's so hard to um I would say in this day and age, to not only have a good um, relationship, godly relationship, but a godly friendship, um, and a true friend.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find friends, let alone good boyfriends who hopefully turn into husbands. I don't know. But,
That's very true.
and so, yeah, I would say that everyone probably feels, and that's what I say in my song. I don't believe that everyone's happy. Maybe they're pretending to be happy, but I know someone's feeling something here. Because the holidays are very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was really refreshing. And it wasn't hopeless, your song. And I want to get that across to people. Like, it wasn't despairing, like all is black and dark and gray and death is near, you know. But it was, it was just very expressive of this sense of melancholy, you know. And I think that's, like you said, I think a lot of people do relate to that. And it's for so many different reasons. Like you said, it could be companionship, loss of a friend,
Yeah.
loss of a family member. Um,
No,
what
my mom is like, Grace, are you gonna write some happy songs? Like I can't. And
Oh,
the thing that's really funny is like I would say I'm like a pretty bubbly person, and I'm not depressed. Like, I have a lot of great things, going for me, and I have a great support system. And but I just think a lot. I like thinking, and I have all these deep, you know things. And yeah.
you know, I wanted to ask you, has this, because when I started experiencing losing people, and I didn't lose people through death like you did, but I lost people through like, um, just emotionally, and people had hurt me or just didn't end up being who I thought they were. And like you kind of felt like you were alone on this ocean, and like the Lord was obviously bringing community and all of this, but you were missing key parts of your life that like other people had or you would compare yourself to. And I would I would find myself like questioning God's goodness a ton, and I'd be like is something bad going to happen to me? Like is my future just marked out for martyrdom and suffering? And I really struggled with that a lot when I was first experiencing just really heavy blows to my heart. And so I wonder for you, seeing that happen to your brother, and like you said, he was so present. And there's always this wrestling in the heart of like, why did that have to happen to that person? You know, he was so kind, he was so present, he was my best friend. Is that, or was that, hard for you? Like, are you afraid of losing things very easily? How do you talk to God about that? Because I think that's something like, even as believers, we're always wrestling with. It's like God is good, but the circumstance is bad. And so how do I put these two things together?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have fear of losing things, and family members. And I guess you can get so used to comfort, you know? You can
Uh-huh.
just be like, oh, but I'm so comfortable, and I can't change, I can't do any drastic changes in my life. Like, my parents are here, and like, I just want to stay in this little bubble, you know? I can't, change. I've struggled with that. I've struggled with trying to get out of my bubble. And I guess when I try to pray to God, especially recently, as I'm going off to college, um, and I didn't. It was hard for me to make friends in school, in middle school, and high school, because I was always trying to replace Liam with a deep friendship. Not replace, but like I was trying. I was striving for that deep friendship
Yeah.
that I lost with Liam. And so I was very lonely throughout middle school and high school. And, even after, in elementary school, didn't, I wouldn't say I had true friends, maybe acquaintances. And maybe that's the case for everyone, but that I was always trying to, you know, search for a deep friendship.
Yeah.
But as I'm going off to college now, I'm like, you know what, God, when I look at the cross, you know, Jesus Jesus gave up everything. And as Christians, we should imitate him. And we shouldn't be afraid of losing everything, because if you lose everything, you haven't lost everything, because you still have God. And
Hmm.
I just think about that. I try to think about that when I'm holding on to stuff, whether that's comfort or people or situations that didn't work out or things in the future that I'm stressed about. I just look at the cross and I'm like, Jesus gave up everything. Let me give it to him.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and the fact that you've learned that, or well, are learning it, because I think we always learn it, just different situations. So it's like an onion, you keep peeling it and you go deeper, deeper, but it's still the same onion, it's still the same thing. But it's like different situations that make it harder and harder and harder for the simple truth that you're trying to learn. But um, I think it's a blessing and a curse in some ways. But for you, like that, you've been able to start learning that so young. Whereas, I've met several older individuals who have told me, like, this is a good thing. Like, I know you don't feel that way, but when you're suffering in your younger years, like, you're learning truths that have taken some of us 40 and 60 years, and we're just starting to learn them. And, like, it's not a bad thing. That's God's journey for each person. But it's, they say, like, this is an encouragement that God cares about you. He wants you to know truth. And it's not like he's inflicting these things on you so that you can be sad, but um, these things he is
Yeah.
using to make you wiser and sharper, ministering to other people. And also, like, you don't always know the reason, why Liam died when he was 10. Like, you don't know everything. Only God knows. But it is really neat to see that at such a young age, you have, like, this desire to talk about these hard topics and put this out there and things for Christmas. Because I mean, gotta be honest, most of the people that are 18 writing Christmas songs, they're kind of rip-offs of like Ariana Grande's Santa Claus is Coming to Town and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Which
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad song. I do like that song. But it is definitely like, pop and happy and fun. Um, and it's interesting because when we remember Christmas, there was like Christ was born, right? But then he had to flee where he was born because Herod killed all of the children under 2. Like that's
Yeah.
also in the Christmas story. So it's like this, it's interesting. It's like this beautiful, glorious, like the Savior is born, beautiful, shepherds come, there's these angels singing. And then just days later, you have all of these babies slaughtered who didn't, who are just taken from their parents and killed. And it's like, that's all in the same time. And it's just crazy. It's almost like an encouragement that like the balance of feeling happy and sad is like almost expected on a holiday. Like there's just not a way for it to be perfectly perfect?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Well, I think Christmases as I don't think we ever forget the Christmases we've had as children. They just seem so magical. Like
That's true.
looking back,
Yeah.
it just like nothing went wrong. And I think it's because our parents have, they worked so hard to make that time magical. Um but for me, when I started taking my faith in Jesus seriously, cuz I went through a time of doubt in high school. I said I didn't believe in God. All these other religions, which one's true? And
Yeah.
if there's so much evil in the world, that how is there a God? But when I came back to Christ, actually through a dream of him hugging me, and that was the night that I woke up and I gave my life to him, and was like, okay, okay. You're real. So I,
Hmm.
but ever since I gave my life to Christ for real, which is a year and a half ago, I would say I had that dream. Um, Everything I've dealt with, you know, the things, those images that pop up from time to time with Liam in different, in ways that I never dealt with them before giving my life to Christ, and I deal with pain differently now, and I have so much hope in my heart because of Jesus, and I don't look at things the same.
Yeah.
And Jesus is my brother. He's my dad. Jesus is my father. He's my brother. He's my God, my savior, and I mean, he, that hole in my heart from Liam, you know, isn't completely gone, but it's, Jesus does a really good job at healing that.
Yeah. And I think, it's in on earth, like, not supposed to be completely made whole yet, until you get to heaven and you'll see Liam and you'll be with God in body, like present, seeing his face. And that's when everything will be perfect. So it is true. It's
Oh,
like
girl, don't
this.
get me excited.
Yeah. I know. Um, it's a good reminder this Christmas. That's why I was really encouraged by your song. Um, I was gonna ask you, now, I don't know if it's changed. Maybe it's the same as when you were a kid, but like, is there something you love about Christmas, whether it be very sentimental to you or just like a certain tradition your parents do or an activity or, something about Christmas that never ceases to bring some delight to the holiday for you?
Yeah, every year, at Christmas, my grandparents, they live 8 miles away from here, and they come over every Christmas. And that's always meant a lot to me to have my grandparents very close to us. My
Hmm.
mom's parents, they've always been a rock in my life, and they moved with us from California to Texas, and yeah, I mean, they're always there, and they're very special to me.
That is so cool that you have them every single Christmas or like every holiday or
Yeah, I mean, we see them every week, but it's just,
yeah.
but to have that without fail every Christmas, they're there, and so many people's grandparents live, you know, in different states, or maybe they're not with them anymore, and I've just been very blessed to have them here in Texas, and yeah.
No, that's amazing. I do wish I still had grandparents alive. It's like so, yeah, it's like really sweet. Like biological
Yeah.
grandparents. Um, it's almost like a piece of history is sitting with you. They have so much
Oh
that they've
yeah.
learned. Yeah. And all these things that, and they're at that point in their older age where like they don't care anymore a lot, about what
Yeah.
people think. um,
Some of the things they say, I'm like, Granny, what?
well, what is she, did what's something your granny said?
Oh, she's so naughty. She
Yeah.
is so naughty. Yeah, and she makes these borderline raunchy jokes. And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." My grandpa, he's like the chillest guy you'll ever meet. And he's, yeah, he's something.
That's so funny. I feel like I'll end up being like a raunchy grandma. I feel like that's my personality. This is kind of if I end up being that old, like I think my kids are gonna be like, "Mom, you need to like go in a closet. Like we can't have you in company. You can't be saying these things around people. Like you need to stop." um, do you have any other ideas or other songs? Because when I was looking at your website, like you do have like a concert coming up in a couple days. Um, and you are doing a little bit of touring, and you did record at it was Abbey Studios, right? Abbey Road Studios, which was
Oh yeah, that was a while ago. That was 2024.
Yeah.
I was 16. I was still 16 then. Um, but yeah, that was an amazing experience just to walk in through the doors and you could feel, the energy and all the musicians that have gone before you and I mean not just the Beatles, but so many other musicians.
Oh yeah.
Um,
It's really cool.
but yeah, and no, on Friday I have this concert, this house party concert in Chicago in Winnetka Chapel, and
Yeah.
I think it'll be about 300 people. And I
Wow.
think it's like right next to the Home Alone house, so that's pretty. Um, and then yeah, I'm just gonna be singing my originals. I think there's gonna be a couple covers in there, and yeah, Johnny Cash. Gonna sing some Johnny Cash.
I like him.
Yeah,
Good music.
yeah.
So what if just to kind of wrap up for people like is what can people be obviously I'm going to link your website and everything and you have a lot of socials and everything's very active and current, which is awesome because sometimes I'll link a website and like the person hasn't posted something in like 2 years. And I'm like, okay, I need to find their more current, maybe just their Instagram or whatever it is. But is there something that people can look forward to in the future, or maybe an album you're working on, or another song that might be coming out that would be exciting for people listening?
Yeah, well, I tracked 4 songs in Nashville with this producer a couple weeks ago, but I'm going back after Chicago to lay down final vocals, and I'm really, really happy with those 4 songs. So hopefully, in the next year, in 2026, y'all will hear those. I don't know when, um, but hopefully, y'all will hear those. Yeah.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it. That's really exciting. And it's so neat to see like just how much like you've been able to reach so many people and your music is getting out there and more people know about you and it's just really neat to see how the Lord is like blessing your talent and what you love to do and that you're just doing it and writing these songs about melancholic Christmas even if lots of people are rocking around the Christmas tree. I think you're right. Many people might be actually just, wailing around the Christmas tree now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
great.
for sure. Yeah.
Grace, it's been a gift to talk with you. Thank you for your
You
music.
too.
And for people listening, please, you'll see um her website linked here and then I'll also link the song that she recently released as well because it's really beautiful and I already started singing it and I was like starting to like it was just so catchy too so I was singing it to myself. I'm like and I'm like wow this is pretty good. I mean I'm not like I don't catch up on songs that quick if you know what I mean, like it takes me like 5 times until I like know maybe some of the song, but yours was sticking with me. The chorus just kept coming back over and over. So I was like, this is a really good song.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas. Blessings on your
Merry Christmas.
concert. And thank you so much for
Thank
talking with
you.
us. You're
Thank you for
welcome.
having me.
Bye.